The board presentation slides froze mid-transition as the words sliced through the conference room. As our new CEO, my son Wesley will lead us into the next decade. My father-in-law Victor beamed with pride while gesturing toward my husband, who couldn't even meet my eyes. My fingertips went numb against the laptop keyboard. The presentation deck on the screen, the culmination of my 3 years revitalizing their failing business, now displayed Wesley's name where mine should have been. The promotion my father-in-law had promised me just last month. The position I'd earned by quadrupling their market share and modernizing their entire operation. Perhaps Natalie can continue supporting the team with her administrative talents, my mother-in-law Francine added, her voice dripping with false sweetness as several board members chuckled. The painful contrast between my Harvard MBA hanging in my office and her dismissal of me as glorified secretarial help made my temples throb. Wesley shifted in his chair, adjusted his tie, the one I'd helped him select this morning when he'd kissed me and whispered, "Today's going to change everything for us." I hadn't realized what everything meant until now. My name is Natalie. I'm 34 and a business strategist. This is the story of how I transformed a family betrayal into the most important business lesson of their lives. For 3 years, I'd been the silent architect behind Palmer Industries' resurrection. Victor had hired me to save the company from bankruptcy, impressed by my track record of revitalizing struggling businesses. What began as a consulting position quickly evolved when I identified critical weaknesses in their operational structure and outdated technology infrastructure. "We need someone who understands modern business," Victor had said back then, "someone who isn't trapped in the old ways of thinking." What he'd really meant was someone to do the work without receiving the credit. I'd designed new product lines, restructured debt, and negotiated partnerships that had pulled the company from the brink of collapse. Meanwhile, Wesley attended meetings sporadically, spending more time on golf courses than in boardrooms. Just last month, Victor had called me into his office, clapped a hand on my shoulder, and promised, "When I announce the new CEO at the quarterly meeting, this company will finally have the leadership it deserves." I'd believed him. I'd trusted family. What I hadn't known was that Francine had been orchestrating a different plan. The Palmer name must remain at the helm, she'd apparently told Victor, according to Wesley's assistant who'd overheard their conversation and discreetly informed me last week. I'd cultivated good relationships with the staff, which is how I received this critical information before the announcement. As the meeting concluded and board members filed out, congratulating Wesley with handshakes and backslaps, I remained seated, my presentation notes spread before me, strategies Wesley wouldn't understand, much less implement. My husband approached cautiously, his expression a mixture of guilt and excitement. "Nat, I wanted to tell you, but Dad insisted we keep it quiet until..." "Until what, Wesley?" "Until you could blindside me in front of the entire board." My voice remained low, controlled, betraying none of the fury building beneath my carefully maintained composure. "It's not personal," he attempted, reaching for my hand. "It's just business. The Palmer name has to..." "Don't." I withdrew my hand. "If it's just business, then let's treat it as such." Victor approached, Francine shadowing him with a triumphant smile. "Natalie, we hope you understand. Wesley is a Palmer. The company has always been meant for him." "Of course," I replied, gathering my materials. "Family first, right? That's always been your motto." "Precisely," Francine nodded. "I'm sure you'll continue to be a valuable assistant to the new CEO." The emphasis on assistant made her meaning clear. I would never be more than that in her eyes. What they didn't know was that I'd long suspected this betrayal might come. The casual dismissals, the credit for my work attributed to Wesley, Francine's constant reminders that I wasn't really family despite 5 years of marriage. So I'd protected myself in ways they couldn't imagine. That evening, Wesley arrived home late, champagne on his breath from celebrating his unearned promotion. He found me in our home office, surprisingly calm. "You're not still upset, are you?" he asked, loosening his tie. "Dad says you can still lead the innovation department. That's what you enjoy anyway, right? The behind-the-scenes stuff?" I smiled faintly. "I've been doing some behind-the-scenes work tonight, actually. Just finalized some paperwork." "That's my Nat. Always working." He kissed the top of my head. "Things won't change between us. I promise. Things already have changed, Wesley. I closed my laptop. I just accepted a position at Meridian Technologies. His smile faltered. Meridian? But they're our biggest competitor. Yes, interesting coincidence. I stood straightening papers on the desk. Did you know that under my employment contract, if I'm passed over for a promotion that was explicitly promised, all non-compete clauses become void? Your father's lawyer drafted it himself. Wesley's face drained of color. You wouldn't. I also had a fascinating call with Catherine Wells today. The venture capitalist? Wesley's voice cracked. What does she have to do with anything? She's very interested in the patent applications I filed 6 months ago, the ones for the proprietary technology that's been driving Palmer's recent success. I removed a frame from the wall, my first patent certificate. The technology I developed on my own time using my own resources, that Palmer has been using under a licensing agreement, which, interestingly, terminates if I leave the company. Wesley sank into a chair. Dad will fight this. We'll sue. With what evidence? Every board meeting where your father promised me the CEO position is recorded as part of corporate governance. Every email where he confirmed my trajectory is archived. Every patent application has my name on it, not Palmer Industries. I leaned against the desk. But here's what I'm proposing instead. After laying out my terms, I gave Wesley a choice. Help facilitate an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning or watch me walk away with the AI-driven supply chain optimization system I developed that now powered 60% of Palmer's operations. By midnight, he was making calls to board members, arranging the 7 a.m. meeting I'd demanded. The emergency board meeting the next morning was Wesley's idea. At least that's what he told his father. Board members gathered, confused by the urgency, while Victor fumed about proper procedures, and Francine whispered furiously to Wesley, "This better be important," Victor growled as the last member took their seat. "We have a transition to manage." Wesley cleared his throat. Yesterday's announcement was premature. Victor's eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "I've realized I'm not the right person to lead Palmer Industries," Wesley continued, his rehearsed speech delivered with surprising conviction. "In fact, there's only one person with the vision and expertise to take this company forward." He gestured toward me. Natalie Palmer. The room erupted in confusion. Francine's outraged "What?" cutting through the murmurs while Victor's face darkened dangerously. "Have you lost your mind?" Victor hissed at his son. "This is a family company." "And Natalie is family," Wesley replied. "More importantly, she's the reason this company still exists." He distributed folders to each board member. These documents outline Natalie's contributions over the past 3 years, including the proprietary technology she developed and licensed to us, technology that generates 60% of our current revenue. The board members flipped through the pages with increasing concern as Wesley continued. "Additionally, you'll find a letter from Meridian Technologies offering Natalie the CEO position, effective immediately, along with acquisition of her patents. Finally, there's a term sheet from Catherine Wells' venture capital firm offering to fund Natalie in establishing her own company with these technologies as the foundation." Victor slammed his hand on the table. "This is blackmail." "No," I interjected calmly. "This is business. Just business. Isn't that what you said, Wesley?" The board chair, Elizabeth, who had remained silent until now, adjusted her glasses. "Let me understand correctly. The technology driving our recent success belongs to Natalie personally, not Palmer Industries." "Licensed to Palmer under specific conditions," I confirmed. "Conditions that include my continued employment in an executive capacity." Another board member spoke up. "And if you leave?" "The license terminates, the technology goes with me, and based on current valuations, Palmer Industries loses approximately 60% of its market value overnight." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Victor's face contorted with rage, while Francine seemed on the verge of collapse. "You planned this all along," Victor accused. "Used our family, married my son." "I married Wesley because I loved him," I corrected. I saved your company because I'm excellent at what I do, and I protected myself because I recognized that to you, I would never be more than the help, regardless of my contributions." Elizabeth cleared her throat. "I move that we reconsider yesterday's appointment and hold a proper vote for the CEO position based on qualifications rather than family connections." The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive, 7-2 with only Victor and Francine opposing. Within an hour, I was named CEO of Palmer Industries, with Wesley repositioned as Chief Brand Officer, a role better suited to his actual skills in relationship building and public relations. As the board members filed out, Victor remained seated, his empire slipping from his grasp. "You won't get away with this," he muttered. "This company has been in the Palmer family for 3 generations." "And it still is," I replied, gathering my materials. "I'm Natalie Palmer, remember? You just never really saw me as one." 6 months into my tenure as CEO, Palmer Industries' stock had risen 43%. The new product line based on my technology had launched to critical acclaim, and the company culture had transformed. Employees who had been overlooked under the old nepotistic structure were now thriving in positions earned through merit rather than connections. Wesley surprisingly excelled in his new role, once freed from expectations he couldn't meet. Our marriage, however, couldn't survive the revelation of his complicity in his parents' betrayal. I filed for divorce 3 weeks after becoming CEO, once I had secured my position. The proceedings moved quickly as neither of us contested the terms, and our divorce was finalized the same week our quarterly earnings exceeded projections by 26%. Victor announced his retirement a month after my appointment, unable to bear watching me lead the company he'd nearly destroyed. Francine still appeared at charity events, claiming credit for mentoring me, a revision of history that amused rather than angered me. The truth was evident in our success. On the anniversary of that fateful board meeting, I received a hand-delivered envelope. Inside was a brief note from Victor. "You were right, I was wrong. The company deserved better than what tradition dictated." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was an acknowledgement, one I hadn't realized I still wanted. That evening, as I walked through the headquarters toward my corner office, the one that had been Victor's for 30 years, I passed the wall of company leaders. New photography had been installed that day, past CEOs in chronological order, with my portrait now hanging at the end. The placard beneath it read simply, "Natalie Palmer, CEO, first for merit, not name." I told the PR team to remove it, that it was too pointed, too personal. They'd insisted it had come directly from the board as a statement of the company's new values. Later, I discovered it had been Wesley's suggestion, perhaps his own form of apology. The company holiday party that December felt different. For the first time, promotions and recognitions were announced based entirely on performance metrics rather than family connections or personal favor. As I presented the awards, I caught sight of a familiar figure at the back of the room, Catherine Wells, the venture capitalist who had unknowingly been my leverage. "I came to see if you made the right choice," she said when I approached her later, "turning down my offer to fund your own company." I gazed around at the transformed organization, the engaged employees, the innovative products, the healthy culture. I already had a company. They just needed to recognize it was mine all along. Catherine laughed. "Well, when you're ready for your next challenge, my offer stands. Though at this rate, you might be acquiring my portfolio companies instead." The following board meeting, I proposed a change to the company bylaws. Leadership positions would be determined by a transparent evaluation process based on qualifications and performance, never family connection. The vote was unanimous, including from the newest board member, Francine, who had taken Victor's seat upon his retirement 5 months after I became CEO. "Family is important," she acknowledged stiffly when questioned about her support, "but so is survival." It was as close to an apology as I would ever receive from her, and it was enough. I had never wanted to destroy the Palmer family legacy, only to prove that merit matters more than marriage certificates or birthrights. Today, Palmer Industries is recognized as an industry leader in both innovation and corporate governance. The company that was nearly bankrupted by nepotism now serves as a case study in meritocratic leadership. As for me, I kept the Palmer name after the divorce, not for Wesley, but because I had earned it. Not as a wife, but as the woman who transformed a failing family business into an empire built on merit rather than bloodlines. Sometimes I think about that board meeting where they tried to dismiss me as merely administrative support. In my office, I keep a small plaque on my desk, visible only to me, that reads, "The most dangerous person in the room is the one you underestimate." It serves as a daily reminder that being underestimated can be your greatest advantage if you're prepared to prove exactly how wrong they were. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.